A scientist claims, I am completely objective. My personal emotions do not influence my work. A philosopher says, I use only logic. My desires do not affect my conclusions. But then, something strange happens. Two scientists look at the same data and reach completely opposite conclusions. Two philosophers use the same logic and arrive at entirely contradictory theories. So the question arises, why does this happen? Can any human being ever be truly neutral? Are science and philosophy really objective, or is that just a comforting illusion? Nietzsche's answer is clear, and it is deeply unsettling. He says, no. There is no such thing as pure objectivity. Every scientist, every philosopher, every thinker views the world through the lens of their personality, their experiences, their desires, and their fears. What we call objectivity is often nothing more than a civilized attempt to hide our subjectivity. This is where the Science of Happiness Part 2 truly begins. And this is the point where Nietzsche shakes the foundations of things we treat as sacred: knowledge, reason, logic, and truth itself. Nietzsche asks a dangerous question. Can a human being ever step outside themselves and think? For Nietzsche, the answer is no. Every human being sees from a specific perspective, and that perspective is shaped by the body, the nervous system, lived experience, and psychological structure. Modern neuroscience confirms this. Antonio Damasio showed that when the emotional centers of the brain are damaged, people lose the ability to make decisions. What does this mean? It means reason does not work alone. Emotion is not the enemy of logic, it is its foundation. When a person forms a scientific theory or constructs a philosophical argument, the parts of the brain that activate are the ones that merge emotion and reason. Every rational thought carries an emotional component. That is why Nietzsche says, every philosophy is a confession of its philosopher. A pessimistic philosopher creates a pessimistic philosophy. Someone who hates life builds arguments against life. And a healthy life-affirming person creates a philosophy that says yes to existence. Nietzsche gives the example of Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer claimed that life is suffering and desire is pain. Nietzsche responds, this is not a universal truth. It is a reflection of Schopenhauer's personal psychological condition. Had his life been different, his philosophy would have been different. Modern psychology explains this clearly. Confirmation bias, motivated reasoning. Human beings search for arguments that confirm what they already believe. Nietzsche then turns his attack toward language itself. According to him, language does not describe reality, it creates reality. When we name something, we imprison it inside a category. We say, this is a tree, but in reality, every tree is unique. Language gives us convenience, but the price of that convenience is the loss of reality's complexity. Cognitive linguistics says the same thing. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis argues that language shapes thought. George Lakoff demonstrated that abstract thinking is built entirely on metaphors. We say, time flows, an idea is grasped, an argument is strong or weak. These are metaphors. But we forget they are metaphors and start treating them as reality. Nietzsche calls concepts dead metaphors. We use them so often that we forget they were once poetic comparisons, and we begin to believe they represent absolute truth. Neuroscience supports this too. The brain does not see individual things, it sees patterns. This is efficient, but the cost of efficiency is the loss of depth, richness, and uniqueness. That is why Nietzsche says, scientific laws are not ultimate truths, they are useful simplifications. In the philosophy of science, this is called instrumentalism. Thomas Kuhn showed that science does not move toward absolute truth, it moves through changing paradigms. Newtonian physics was not wrong, it was a useful approximation. Einstein refined it. Quantum mechanics challenged Einstein. Science is not a journey toward final truth. It is a journey toward better models. Nietzsche says the real problem is not that we lack absolute truth. The real problem is that we refuse to accept this fact, and that refusal turns us into dogmatists. Nietzsche then speaks about self-knowledge. For him, knowing yourself is the hardest, perhaps even impossible task. Why? Because the observer and the observed are the same. Neuroscience describes this through the default mode network. We do not know ourselves directly, we know ourselves through a constructed narrative. Psychologist Timothy Wilson calls this the introspection illusion. We build a story of our life. We select certain memories. We erase others. We exaggerate some moments and minimize others. And then we call this story our identity. Dan McAdams' narrative identity theory explains this perfectly. Nietzsche says, we do not need to know every truth. Some truths are harmful, and some illusions are necessary. Existential psychology shows that complete awareness of life's meaninglessness can paralyze a person. Positive psychology has shown that a certain amount of optimism, even illusion, is essential for mental health. For Nietzsche, the ultimate question is not, is this true? The real question is, does this strengthen life? Knowledge that weakens life is poison, no matter how accurate it is. And an illusion that strengthens life is precious, even if it is not fully true. Nietzsche says, true philosophy is not found in books, it is found in how you live. If a philosophy does not give you the strength to live, it is nothing more than an intellectual exercise. True courage is this: to live with uncertainty, to survive doubt, and yet to affirm life. This is Nietzsche's message. Do not turn knowledge into God. Treat it as a tool. Do not make truth your ultimate goal. Make life your goal.